now we have with us Joe Joseph, Regional Marketing, HP, who's going to take us through the HP presentation. I'm inviting Joe up on stage.
My name is Joe, and while my slides coming on stage, I just thought, I kind of feel like a sadist standing here between your lunch. So you guys got to give me 10 minutes. I'll try to wind this up as fast as I can, but we have some amazing technology which I just wanted to talk about. But before I start, I read this very interesting joke or story or whatever. So there's this guy who's struggling with 2 huge suitcases at a train station. And one man comes by and he's like, excuse me, do you have the time with you? So he puts down the suitcases, looks at his watch, and tells the time. And the stranger who asked for the time is amazed because that watch was very, very fancy looking. And incidentally, the guy happened to be an inventor, okay? So he also happened to be an engineer. So he wanted to show off his invention. So he starts talking about the features of the watch. And he says that this watch, it can give you the time of many countries. I have programmed it to speak in different languages, blah, 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 huge list. The stranger is like extremely thrilled with the watch. He says, I want to buy this right now. So he says, sorry, sir, this is not commercially available right now. I'm still testing it. No. He says, I'll give you $1,000. He says, no, it's not ready yet. $5,000. He's like, no, sir, I don't think I can make this choice. He says, okay, $15,000. And this guy is like, okay, $15,000 is a lot of money. I spent around $8,500 to build the watch. I'll build another watch, and I'll use the remaining money for something else. So he says, deal done. He takes out this checkbook, writes the check, hands it over. The inventor is like thrilled. His invention just got sold like that. He removes the watch, gives it to him. He's walking away. The other guy is walking away, and he calls him, excuse me, just take those 2 suitcases. They are the batteries for the watch. Okay. I was listening to the panel, and the future is now. So while that watch was a joke, today we really see fancy watches in the market out there. And we, along with HP and organizations like ANSYS and people like you, we're really fortunate because we touch and impact so many lives across the globe with the kind of things that we create. And my name is Joe. I'm the regional marketing manager for the workstation solutions. When you talk about ANSYS, typically there are 3-4 things that that the software looks for in a hardware. Basically, the ability, the processing power, the memory power, the graphic, and the ability of the hard disk to read write fast. So these are some of the, and obviously your GPU computing. So these are some of the considerations when you talk about ANSYS. And we have our entire range of machines called the Z workstations. We have listened to customers, we have listened to our partners, and we have engineered these workstations which we believe are top class in the industry. And you are making cutting edge stuff, and we believe that you should be working with cutting edge machines. So these are some of the pillars of our machines. We're talking about machines which are completely toolless. We are talking about modular, clutter-free architecture, nearly silent operations. When we're talking about people working on workstations, it generates a lot of heat, generates a lot of sound. So if you have to take a few 10, 15, 20, take it to 100 and put it on a floor, just imagine the kind of noise it would generate. Just imagine the kind of heat it would generate. And we are talking about near silent operations. So if you call it something like whisper acoustics. So if you walk into a library, that would be the kind of environment which we give all our users. So I think in the interest of time, I'll just skip through some of these things which are given anyway. So when it comes to certification, extensive certification happens on our hardware. The ANSYS software is tested extensively. So when you use a HP workstation, you can take it in writing that the machine would just work for you. So I'll skip that. So what are the unique advantages for users? So this is something which I wanted to talk about. So many times, we're working with new problems. And we encounter challenges which could be intermittent. We really cannot put a finger and say, this is the problem with our machine. Every time we use a machine, how do we know that we're getting the maximum out of the machine? how do we know what is the optimum configuration that you should be using? Or even if you have a configuration, how do you know what is the optimum setting for that configuration? So these are all some of the questions that baffle all of us in the industry. Typically, what would you do? If you have an issue, you would probably go to some tech forum and you will kind of ask for make a statement saying that, okay, this is what I'm using, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm having this challenge. Somebody may chip in and say that, okay, I had this challenge, this is how I mitigated it. Or you may speak to people in the industry. But we have kind of brought in the solution. It's called the Performance Advisor. It's a tool that comes along with all our workstations. Essentially, it is, like the name suggests, it's an advisor that kind of helps you to fine-tune your machine in these 3 areas. So we're talking about your software, we're talking about your computer itself, and we're talking about your performance of the machine. So this tool gives you insights into these 3 areas. So when it comes to your software, it kind of lists down all the softwares that you're running. So typically what happens, you buy a workstation, you have your OS, you have all your software sitting on top of that. So at the end of the day, not every update is important for you. So I learned it the hard way, right? I think all of us at some point in time would have done this. So when I got my smartphone for the first time, I was more interested in which update is coming out. So every update comes up, I used to update it till my phone crashed. So the story is very simple. Only what is relevant to us we should update. Otherwise, we should let it go. But how do we know what is relevant to us? We are talking about different versions of different softwares that's come out at different times, that is sitting on top of each other. We're talking about something, interoperability of things, which needs to give you an optimum performance. So performance of one should not bring down the performance of the other thing that you're trying to do. So that's where this tool comes in. So at the first aspect of this tool is, it kind of lists down all the softwares that are there in your machine. It kind of advises you. This is what is the latest update that's come in. You can go ahead and download it. So that's one thing. Second thing is that it kind of gives you a view into your computer. You see that it's a diagrammatic view of what's inside your machine. You don't have to open your machine. Your team doesn't have to really go and search for old purchase orders, figuring out what is the configuration bought. Everything is clear. So just one click, you will know how it's populated, what is the scope for expansion and things like that. But the most interesting part of this tool is the third aspect, performance. The one that I mentioned about intermittent issues. We'd all like to know what is the resource that is being utilized. How much of my memory is being used? How much of my graphic card is being used? How much of my processor is being used? How is my hard disk coping up? Because when you're talking about ANSYS, typically you're talking about a lot of number crunching. So at the end of the day, how is that faring? What is the headroom in your machine for growth? So problem sizes have been only exploding, right? If you look at 10 years back, the problem sizes were smaller. Today it's grown multifold, and tomorrow it's going to grow more. So how is your hardware going to have the capability to take care of all of that? So we have a very interesting feature on this. Typically, you can actually let the machine work in the background. You can actually take a snapshot of what you're actually doing with the machine, and it will give you insights. This is the reason why the machine is stalling. So you can take an informed decision. You can actually put a finger and say, okay, because many times what happens is, machine is slow, okay, let's look at a high memory. Not necessary that if you put a memory, the machine performance will improve. So this tool kind of gives you an insight into that. That's Performance Advisor for you. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is HP Remote Graphics software. Another very interesting tool. We take a lot of pride in this product. It was created by HP for NASA for one of the space missions. The brief was very clear that the tool needed to, we needed to transfer images back to Earth, and it shouldn't hog the bandwidth. That was a simple brief. And I think it is a great product. It was very successful for them. And we realized that it can be an even more useful tool for users like you. So in a nutshell, this is a collaborative tool. All of us need to collaborate, maybe within the organization, outside the organization, somewhere or other, same building, different building, whatever. So this tool, this software gives you the ability to collaborate sitting wherever you are in real time, 2D, 3D, audio, video, whatever. I can give couple of examples to, for you to understand, how this could be used in a very innovative way. In Bangalore scenario, very, very relevant. You can actually get your machine to work for you when you're not at your desk. How do we do that? So using this tool, you can actually connect to your machine in office, and you can get the machine to work. So while we are stuck in traffic, which I think most people in Bangalore are used to, we get stuck at least 2 hours, 3 hours a day in traffic, we can actually get the machine to work for us. So that's one way you could use this tool. Sometimes we do some tasks which take a few hours. So we start the activity in the evening, we wait for it to get over. You can probably start the activity, you can go home, and you can monitor the same from home. These are some uses which I can think of which will definitely be of use to you. This is another technology which definitely is cutting edge. So when it comes to hard disks, we are talking about SATA drives, you're talking about SAS drives, you're talking about SSD drives, good, better, best, in that fashion. But we are talking about a new drive called the HP Z Turbo drive, which basically eliminates the 6 Gbps SATA cable bandwidth connectivity limitation. So even though your SSD, your SATA, SAS, and SSD are drives that gets faster, but the cable that connects the drive to the motherboard is a 6 Gbps cable, and that becomes a limitation. So in a way, if I take an analogy, it's like if you're driving on Hosur Road, you can have the best of cars, but if traffic is stopping you, you can't drive fast. So what we've done with this is that we're talking about a hard disk that directly connects to the motherboard using the PCIe slot. What does it mean for you? We're talking about 4x performance over an SSD drive. So if you're talking about some simulation activity or some analysis activity that's taking about 8 hours, 9 hours, you're talking about bringing that time down by 4 or 5 times. We brought in something of a Z cooler. It's a cooling solution which makes the machine regulate the temperature and takes care of the noise. So I'll skip these slides. So we have all form factors. Some of the products, these are some of the entire range of products. So I would say that I would just say the statement that whatever be the product, we can give it to you. HP can offer you whatever can be offered to the maximum. I don't think there's any other technology partner on earth who can give more than what HP can offer. So we have an entire range of tower workstations. We have an entire range of mobile workstations. And I'm around. If you want to have a conversation, we can. There's a HP booth outside. Feel free to drop by. Drop in your contacts, and I could get back to you all if you want further updates. In the interest of time, I would stop here. I will just play one video. It's the latest launch. We have shipped 120 of these units to the International Space Station. It's a work of art. We're talking about a mobile workstation which can actually give you the power of a tower workstation. Thank you.
You think thin can't be powerful? Consider this your wake-up call. Introducing HP ZBook Studio Mobile Workstation. Full-blown desktop Z workstation power. At just 18 millimeters thin and 4.4 pounds, you can throw it on your back. With 2 terabytes of storage, you can take massive files from Shanghai to Prague. Then display it in 4K Dream Color. Award-winning, get your acceptance speech ready color. Now, let's talk real-time graphics. NVIDIA Quadro Real Deal graphics. Want speed? Unleash the HP Z Turbo Drive. Plus a super stable server-grade Intel Xeon processor. Don't compromise on performance. Wake up with a double shot of awesome. Introducing HP ZBook Studio Mobile Workstation.
There you go, the perfect workstation solutions for you. That's what happens when HP and ANSYS get together.